Look, I know you might be thinking that small talk is just meaningless chit chat, but trust me, learning how to make small talk could be the single biggest reason you land that next job, meet the girl of your dreams, or make a new best friend. What's up, people? My name is Akhil Nova. This channel is all about helping you guys improve your communication skills and building up that self-confidence. So in this video, I thought about giving you guys the ultimate guide on how to make small talk with just about anyone. And before we get started, make sure to hit the like button to show your support and subscribe so you'll know when I drop my next video. Let's get started. Guys, you're gonna find yourselves having to make small talk in a lot of different settings. We're talking at networking events, on a first date, approaching someone you like, meeting people at a party. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. But no matter how different the environment is, your approach will always be the same. So guys, if you're at a social event, the first step to making small talk is to find that one approachable person. Usually that's either going to be someone who makes eye contact with you or someone who isn't already engaged in a conversation. For example, those would be the people that you find grabbing a bite to eat or sitting at a table alone. Now, if you do catch the person making eye contact, then smile and walk over and introduce yourself and ask for their name. You could start by saying something like, "Hey, how's it going? My name is Akhil. What's your name?" Now that person's gonna respond with, "Hi, I'm Julia." Now it's really important that you reply by repeating their name back to them, right? So you would say something like, "Oh, it's nice to meet you, Julia." And the reason as to why you want to use their name and repeat it back to them is because a person's name is the sweetest and most important sound to them. It makes it that much more personable and it shows that you're making the effort to remember it. Alright, so we got past the easy part, which is the introduction, but now we're getting into the real challenge, right? Which is actually making small talk. Now, one tip you guys can use to start small talk with someone is to use your surroundings or their appearance to ask a relevant question. Now that kind of sounds confusing, right? Like, what do I mean by that? So let's start with your surroundings. Let's say me and Julia met at the bar. I would still approach her, introduce myself, but I would use my environment to come up with a question to kickstart that conversation, right? So I would say something along the lines of, "So Julia, I come to this bar pretty often, but I could use a suggestion for a new drink. Do you have a go-to favorite?" Now the reason as to why I asked that particular question is because it does two things. For one, it shows that I have a genuine interest in knowing her favorite drink, and two, it makes her feel like her opinion matters, right? Like people really crave appreciation, and when other people show a genuine interest in their taste, people want you to ask for their personal opinion, and it only brings them joy and makes them feel good knowing that someone would pick what they suggested. Now another method of sparking up small talk is to use someone's appearance or their outfit to spark up a conversation. So there's a lot of times where I'm stuck on an elevator with a random colleague or just any person in general, right? And in that situation, I would try to find something that they're wearing that I could give a compliment on. But make sure that your compliment is genuine, because if it's not and you don't mean it, it will show, and you don't ever want to really come off sarcastic to someone. So because I work in an office, it's pretty often that I come across someone who wears like a really quirky tie or like a nice pair of shoes. So I would spark up that conversation by saying something along the lines of, "Hey, I gotta be honest, man, I love that tie. Where did you get it?" So the way I look at it is that most people I know spend a good amount of time every morning picking out their outfit in hopes that someone's gonna appreciate their style, right? So if someone is having a shitty or stressful day, that one honest and genuine compliment could probably brighten up their entire mood. So just a quick side note, but I want to point out that compliments can easily make you a new friend, right? But they can also make you an enemy. You gotta be careful who you're complimenting and what type of compliments you're using, because that same compliment that you use for one person that makes them feel really good could also come off really wrong and offensive for others. Now, I could understand that having to use your surroundings or coming up with a compliment every time when you're in the heat of the moment could get really difficult. So another great way that you could start small talk is by bringing up something that's happened recently in the news. So if you guys use social media apps like Twitter or Facebook, then you could simply just read up on what's trending at the moment and use that as your conversation starter. But the main reason as to why I think this method is so freaking easy is because we have that one subject that we can all relate to: the global pandemic. Yes, everyone and their uncle knows about it. So if you're ever stuck and you don't know what to say, then simply just ask something along the lines of, "Hey, have you been reading up on that pandemic lately? I heard Florida just had like 10,000 cases in one day. It really scares me that people just don't want to wear their masks." I don't mean to pick on Florida like that, but I did realize that a lot of people's go-to method was talking about the pandemic for their small talk. Now, look, you could go out of your way to be creative and talk about other things, but if you're truly stuck in the moment and you don't know what to say, then just use good old Rona to help you out. So I just want to let you guys know that I've dropped a bunch of icebreakers in the description box below. So check those out. They're both for business settings and also social casual settings too. So, keep 4 or 5 in your pocket, try to remember some of them so that you're ready for the next stranger that you meet. So this entire time we've been talking all about the things you should say to start small talk, but let's just take a quick second to talk about the topics that you shouldn't bring up on your first interaction. And that is politics, race, and religion. Look, I get it. There's a lot of juicy material out there for you to bring up. My personal opinion is to keep the small talk very neutral. You don't want to bring these up because it only really riles people up and causes unnecessary friction in your first interaction. All right, so you've gotten past the icebreakers. Now it's time for you to dig deeper. Ask a lot of open-ended questions. So it's pretty common for us to want to ask questions like, so how's work? Or how's your day? But these type of questions always get the typical one-word responses like, it was good. What about you? And then you already found yourself at a dead end. Now, it's okay to start a conversation with a question, but just be ready to dig deeper. My personal opinion and my advice is to avoid asking questions where the stranger can simply answer with yes or no. So let's say you're speaking to Julia and you ask her the typical opener, so Julia, how's your weekend? Now, 9 times out of 10, she's probably going to reply with, it was nice. Now, in that case, you could follow up with, oh, nice. What did you do? Anything new or special? See, now you got Julia thinking a little bit and having to reply with something she did. So she might say something like, well, Saturday I did check out this new restaurant with my friends. Perfect. That's more than enough information to come up with the next question. So you could ask something like, really? I've been trying to find a new spot for weeks now. I'm actually glad that I asked you then. So tell me more about this new restaurant you went to. Now, notice how I didn't ask her a yes or no question. I didn't ask her, did you like the restaurant? I didn't ask her, was it nice? Did you have a good time? Because Julia could have easily shut down the entire conversation by replying with a simple no. That's why I made sure to ask her to tell me more, or describe this restaurant for me, or what made you want to pick this restaurant over others? Like, positioning your questions like these makes the person have to elaborate more, which only carries the conversation further. But look, eventually you're going to get tired of talking about restaurants, right? I mean, after a few questions, you're going to have to pivot and talk about something else. Now, don't assume that strangers are the masters of socializing, because they're not. Not everyone is. So it's up to you to control the direction of that small talk. And to do that, it all comes down to listening. Guys, I can't stress this enough, but it's really important that you listen more and talk less. The key though is to have a genuine interest in what the other person is saying to you. So if I told you that I'm starting a business and you asked me questions related to it, it's gonna make me feel special, right? Because the more interest you show in me, the more interesting you become to me. But just because you're quiet and you're listening doesn't mean you get to be passive. Body language is very important to small talk. You should be maintaining eye contact with that person. If we're chatting and I see you looking around and you're fidgeting and stuff, then I'm just gonna assume that what I'm saying is only boring you to death. And it's also really important to use verbal cues to show that you're following along with the person, right? So while you're talking, it's important to throw in a couple of those, interesting, tell me more, what was that like for you? Or, got it. Or even, really? No way. And what happened then? When you're actively listening, you're gonna pick up on so much information to bounce off of to continue your conversation. So let's say I'm talking about my business to you. You could ask something like, oh, that's very interesting. So how did you come up with this business idea? Now, I might reply with, well, I've always wanted to be financially free so that I could explore the world and take care of my family. Well, that's already a lot of information, right? So you could come up with a few questions to continue that conversation. You could say something like, wow, well, when this business blows up, what's the first place that you'll visit? Or what's your favorite vacation spot? Or you could even ask, wow, I love that your family is what drives you to build this business. Tell me more about your family. Do they live nearby? How big is the family? So you'll come to realize that it's a lot easier to come up with these questions because you're simply just paying attention and just listening to everything I'm saying. And look, keep me talking for an hour and I promise you'll leave with a new best friend by the end of our conversation. So to help you guys out, I'm gonna add a bunch of icebreakers and open-ended questions in the description box below. So check those out and use those to keep yourselves engaged in your next conversation. All right, people, so you've approached a stranger, you've used a couple icebreakers, and you also used some open-ended questions to carry the conversation. But now, how do you exit the conversation. So how do you politely excuse yourself from the conversation without damaging the person's ego or insulting them? So one way to exit the conversation is to recall why you guys originally connected in the first place and to bring that conversation back to that topic. So think about it like this. You and I initially started talking because of my business idea, right? So you could set up your exit line by saying something along the lines of, well, Akhil, it's been amazing talking with you about your new business idea, but I actually have to catch up with another friend before they leave. Do you mind if I grab some contact info or maybe a social media so we can continue this conversation another time? I'd love to hear more again. Now, everyone's exit strategy is always going to be different, right? But I personally like to ask for some contact info or like a social media to show that I was actually interested in the conversation and that your time wasn't wasted. Now, there are ways to be brutally honest while also keeping their feelings into consideration, right? So if you do want to network with other people, then you could simply ask something like, so who's hosting the event anyway? Would you mind if I excuse myself to go meet them? Now, let's say you're getting near the end of the conversation and you actually want to make a really good first impression and actually make a friend out of this interaction, then you could actually make them tag along with you. Now, this actually makes the person appreciate you more because you're not just kind of leaving them alone, but you're also being considerate enough to make them feel a little bit more welcome by introducing them to other people at this social gathering, right? So you could say something like, hey, so I actually came here with my friend Matthew and I want to introduce you guys because he's also a doctor. I'm going to go try to find him. Would you like to tag along? Now guys, when you finally decide to exit the conversation, then thank them for their time. And also you could be honest too if you'd like, right? You could let them know that you were extremely nervous coming into this event, but after talking to them for a little bit, you feel much more welcome. And that makes you look very genuine and sincere to that person. And now you've both exited the conversation feeling good about each other. Now that's a way to make a new friend. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. It took me a while to record it in between how hot it is in my room and wiping my face down and all that stuff. But before I end this video, I just want to let you guys know one thing. Now, the biggest social fear in America is public speaking. The second biggest social fear is actually starting a conversation with a stranger. So I just want you guys to remember that most people that you approach are scared to death to talk to you. Because you guys are going out of your way to approach the person, it makes you look like the hero, right? People will really appreciate your effort and respect you more because they were just as scared as you were. And before I go, I want to remind you guys that there's a bunch of icebreakers and open-ended questions that I've added in the description box below. So anytime you need them, just go to this video, check them out, copy and paste them into your phone so that you're fully ready and prepared for your next interaction with a stranger. Thanks for watching. I love you guys. Make sure to hit the like button to show your support. It goes a long way. And subscribe so you're ready for my next video. My name is Akhil Nova, and I appreciate you guys and love you guys. Peace.